Marvel Tokon is the newest fighting game from Arc System Works. And in this video, I'm going to share some things the game doesn't tell you. Starting with this. Did you know that Carnage's interaction with Spider-Man's Spidey sense is different compared to every other characters in the game? It's actually been a while since I've seen interactions like this in a fighting game, and it's pretty nice to see, and you usually see this in games based off other IPs. But let's go to stuff that the tutorial doesn't tell you about. I get asked commonly, how do I actually perform this combo? Because at this part here, you're too low to connect with this jump too heavy. So the way that you do this is actually from this guy.
Hey, it's me, Goku!
In Dragon Ball FighterZ, you could use the auto combo to recorrect your height, and this both fixes combos and opens up new combo routing. And you could do the same thing in Marvel Tokon, but really with any button, and not just light. So with this combo with Storm, the main time you use this correction is here at this second jump 6H, where if you hold forward and then press the heavy button again, it will appear that she does a third jump, and you can continue the combo from there. The next thing we're going to talk about also involves jumps, kind of. And we're going to be covering two things here, but it starts with one question. And that question is, what is actually an overhead attack in this game? Tokon encourages you to mix up opponents with jump-ins, special moves unique to specific characters, and even things like Assemble. But if you've been prowling around on social media, looking up info for this game, you might have seen longtime fighting game players complaining about it being kind of hard to actually open people up in this game. And that is because of this unique rule, which is light attacks in the air are not overheads. When you start a fighting game, common and, to be honest, pretty good advice is that when your opponent is on the ground, you should block low, and when your opponent is in the air, you should block high, because the expectation is jump-ins are overhead. They're going to hit you in the head, literally. Lows and mids themselves are pretty fast, and jump attacks are fast too, but they have to get down to you first before you do the attack, so you have plenty of time to see a character coming in the air and block high. In anime fighting games, a very standard mix-up is jump, air dash high right before you would land, or land low, and it's a pretty easy timing lineup, turning the situation into a 50-50 guessing game for the defender. So, because in Marvel Tokon, your jump light is not an overhead, you will take away your standard delay air dash high that you would do at this height, and you take away the jump medium jump light, or empty low guessing game. Now, jump medium and jump heavies are overheads, and command normals do seem to vary, like Storm's jump 6H is a mid, where Carnage into the air dash jump 6H is an overhead. So with this, you still get the air dash mix up if you have time, but it's nowhere near as accessible as it was in previous games. But there's also an extra factor here that not all characters' air dashes and jump mediums are the same speed. So I have the in-game frame data on, and you can tell the speed of a character's air dash by the recovery there. That means that Storm has an 11 frame air dash. And this is relatively common in the game, although there are some exceptions. This fact actually is one reason why you see so much Black Panther and Spider-Man on early teams by tournament players. So both these characters have 11 frame air dashes, but they also have an extremely fast 7 frame jump medium, meaning that essentially their air dash overheads are faster than other characters. That being said, it's not all doom and gloom if you don't play characters like this, because other characters have different ways of hitting people. I've personally been experimenting with Storm and Green Goblin, and Green Goblin, when he's on the glider, his light is just an overhead. A very fast overhead. While Storm's jump medium is pretty slow at 10 frames, you can use the wind actually to stall her fall and do a 50-50 that way. But you do have to come up with pretty creative solutions in this game, because this next thing really threw me for a loop when I was digging into the game system. And this is a very odd idea if you haven't really played fighting games, and if you have played fighting games, you're just going to be like, dude, what? So typically, there's a tactic in fighting games where you make an opponent block an overhead, typically a jump-in, and if they have another overhead or like a jump-in that hits deep enough, you get to do something like this. And I call this the offensive fuzzy guard. You'll also hear players call this a fuzzy in general, or F-shiki. Essentially though, if a player crouches after blocking some type of overhead with significant advantage, the game will lock them into a standing state even if you switch to crouch. This tactic has variable degrees of power, from being a one-off round closer in some fighting games to being a core part of a character's offense in others. This tactic is extremely powerful though, and over the years, some fighting games have implemented measures to remove this type of offense. I've been referencing Dragon Ball FighterZ a lot, and in that game, they took this mix-up totally out the game in Season 3. LordKnight Inbirth has actually done this as well, and the rules in those games is that if you do a rising jumping attack, it is a mid. So you can either stand up or crouch and it's fine. Now, Tokon does this in a way I've never really seen before. Let me know if you've seen this in another fighting game. Maybe I don't play enough different games these days. So I have the virtual controller here so you can actually see what I'm inputting. And side note, I've never seen it before, and we're not going to comment on the layout. But I have Storm doing this string, and I'm using the wind up to extend the offense, because of course after an air dash you cannot double jump, right? Now this part, the jump 6H and jump H here, if I switch to low here, I get hit. And if I try to like mash or hold up, I'm in block stun. If I do crossover, I get it in block stun, right? So this is block stun. Now look at what happens if I decide to crouch the rising overhead. So I have not really seen a game that when you crouch, it also fixes your hurt box, for lack of a better word. Here, in basically all fighting games, even though you crouch, your hurt box is still registered as standing. So that's why these other games I mentioned have these rising attacks as mids instead. But this game actually just lets you switch to low and block stun, which is pretty weird. And I mostly have this section because the game tells you use overheads and lows to mix your opponent up, but they don't really tell you what is overhead, besides some characters have moves that are overheads. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is how the game accepts inputs in certain situations. This is more of a personal reminder for me, but hopefully it helps you too. A pretty common complaint in this game is in regards to when you can and can't call assists. Typically, you can call an assist at the end of a move, but it feels like there's some specific cases and just specific spots where you can't. So I have Carnage here, and he has the command hop, and it would be super swell if you could call the assist here while he's hopping, but you usually have to do it at the beginning of the input, making this situation a set amount of advantage. Or you have to wait until after he lands, a really long time. But more importantly than this, I want to talk about how you actually get the assists and tags that you want. In order, you have your shooting, vertical, and assault assists. But if you do the rush assist, which is a generic assist all characters have, you can't actually pick who comes out. They just kind of come out in order, 1, 2, 3. And you might wonder, why do you want to call these assists rather than the actual standard shooting, vertical, and assault assists? And the big thing is that your rush assist is just a great combo stabilizer, because you have a lot of time to actually go run over and continue your combo. By doing it this way, it doesn't matter whether or not you use 2 of your assists and then like run up and then you only have 1, but you can do the same combo. You don't have to like have a specific combo for each assist. You can use your rush assist to kind of just have the same combo no matter what, making it easier to learn new characters and experiment in the game. And the other big advantage is you can tag into these assists very quickly, basically instantly, compared to doing the shooting assist, whatever their role is. So if you find yourself either not getting this assist out or having an assist out but not being able to tag for some reason, it's because both of these inputs are neutral assists, and it's actually quite important that you remember that. I personally have found times where I'm like, yo, I'm mashing tag, or yo, I wanted my rush assist and it didn't come out because I was holding forward or down from some other part of the combo. This game quietly has a bunch of mechanics that have specific inputs, and there's not really like another way to do them. So keep that in mind if you feel like, like I didn't get the assist that I wanted, or oh, I wanted to attack here but it didn't happen. The other input thing I want to talk about is the 4 attack limit. So the game tells you that you can go from light to medium to heavy, and you can skip medium if you want. And that you can string 4 buttons, like you could do jab, jab, medium, heavy, like this. But it doesn't really specify that 4 is a specific limit. So if I do say LL2L5H and I want to go into 2H, I can't do it. This, combined with the relatively low block stun and hit stun in the game, can make it hard for players to confirm situations with a block string. The simplest way of getting around this would be to use multi-attack moves on purpose. So something like Storm's 5 Heavy, which is 3 hits. Or Loki's auto combo, where the second hit of his auto combo is actually 2 hits. Or the variety of multi-hitting special moves that exist in this game. Okay, so a couple more things I want to touch on. So first, I want to talk about the assemble gauge and combos and how to get around actually spending the assemble gauge. So when you learn a basic combo in this game, it usually goes something like ground hits into an air hit, like this, and you knock them down into a rush assist. And when you spend this assist, you use an assemble gauge. However, this only happens when you quote-unquote cancel into an assist. So, with this understanding of the game, you can create situations where you have combos where you don't spend the assemble gauge. So in this example here, I comboed into Iron Man's air assist, but I didn't spend an assemble gauge. Or, since all ground normals are jump cancelable on hit, so here I jump canceled, and I called the assist, and after I call the assist, I continue my combo. And you know you did this right because the screen won't freeze when you call your assist. Like so. Now you might think this is really good because you get to call more assists in your combo, right? But there are actually some downsides to doing this. So for example, since you can't do a rush assist with this method, you actually lose a meter bonus that you would get for comboing into a rush assist. So for example, if I combo into the Iron Man shooting here, like this, so I get a little bit of meter, right? I started with 100, I went up to 111. But if I combo into Iron Man rush assist, look at my meter. I get a meter bonus for striking with the rush assist. By using this technique, you don't get these bonuses, so you will have less meter than people who spend the assemble gauge on the rush assist. Another factor is, since you're not comboing into an assist, pay attention to my combo gauge. Notice how the combo gauge goes up a pretty big chunk when I combo into Storm's assault assist. And when I combo into the shooting assist, but like canceling into it, notice how the gauge does not go up at all. In a practical sense, if you could confirm a random air hit into like a double jump into an air assist and a continue combo that way, there might be some merit to it. There's a lot of experimentation open to this, but there is give and take here. And finally, I want to talk about one more thing, and it's about throws. And throws are really interesting to talk about in modern fighting games because a lot of games seem to start with people not thinking the throw is good, and then later on something is found or some logic is figured out around throws, and this game is definitely another one of those. So again, I have the frame data on, and if you throw somebody, you are generally like +5. It's not a lot of a frame advantage to actually have. The main thing here is that your opponent can recover quite quickly and can even essentially reversal you, so roll at you and attack right away, and you can't really like set up offense here or anything like that. But there are a couple of positions on the screen where throws actually give you huge advantage if you get them all. So the first one would be by the wall. So if there's a stage transition available, throwing will give you meter, but then cause a stage transition, give you a character, and then give you extra meter because you get more meter every time you get a character. So you get more total meter, up from 100 to 125 or 125 to 150, and 25 extra meter and assemble gauge. Quite good. If you throw someone at the wall, you get a significant amount of advantage because they wall splat, and you get the meter bonus. And with this much advantage, you have plenty of time to set up all sorts of things. If you're further from the wall and you still reach the wall, you will have even more advantage, so keep that in mind. If you haven't guessed, this is another advantage of playing on the X-Mansion stage because there's no transition, so your throws will automatically give you pretty strong offensive states. But yeah, hopefully that helped. I went through the tutorial. I actually thought it was pretty good, but they definitely did leave some stuff out, but I don't blame them because this game has a ton of mechanics, and even long-time fighting game players are finding themselves being pretty overwhelmed at how much stuff you can actually do and how much stuff you have to pay attention to play this game. As usual, if you have any questions or comments, definitely feel free to leave them in the comment section below. The easiest way to support this channel, besides subscribing, is hopping over to Patreon, patreon.com/LordKnight. I do early content there. I do some free videos there too, once a week. And also I do coaching over there too. So if you want any of those, just go there. I also stream most days during the week, or 5 days a week, at twitch.tv/LordKnight or this YouTube channel. And we practice, talk about the game, talk about fighting games, and make content for my second channel, LordKnight Chronicles. Like and subscribe if you guys feel like it, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace out.